Hey, are you Chuck?
Oh man, they won't change that flyer. That's my mainland name. My Hawaiian name is Kunu.
Oh, cool. Sorry. Yeah.
Nah, it's all good.
Does Kunu have some cool Hawaiian meaning?
It means Chuck. I plugged it into a database. There's a thing you can go on the internet. You just type in your name, and it just says it. What's your name?
I'm Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a Hawaiian name.
Oh, great.
Kyopi.
Great.
Kyopi, looks like you got a little pain behind those eyes.
Yeah, maybe a little.
There's really only one cure for that.
What's that?
Weed. You got any?
No.
Well, let's go surfing. Okay, when we're out there, I want you to ignore your instincts. I'm gonna be your instincts. Kunu will be your instincts. Don't do anything. Don't try to surf. Don't do it. The less you do, the more you do. Let's see it pop up. Pop it up. That's not it at all. Do less. Get down. Try less. Do it again. Pop up. Nope. Too slow. Do less. Pop up. Pop up. You're doing too much. Do less. Pop down. Pop up now. Stop. Get down. Get down there. Remember, don't do anything. Nothing. Pop up. Well, you got to do more than that, because you're just laying. Right out looks like you're boogie boarding. Just do it. Feel it. Pop up. Yeah, that wasn't quite it, but we're gonna figure it out there. Let's go surfing. Come on. Everybody's learning how. Come on. The weather outside is weather.
The following film podcast frequently contains adult content, including foul language and descriptions of adult situations. Spoilers for the films discussed occur often. Listener discretion is advised. Now take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
Welcome back. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 174. And
175.
God damn it, did I just fuck that up?
You did. I think we should leave it in.
It is episode 175 of They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. I did a podcast before this. I've been drinking. I'm a little fucking slammered at this point, so excuse me.
Yeah. No, it's fine. No one expects anything more from us at this point.
No one expects quality from us. What the fuck? It's fine. But I am Lee. When life gives you lemons, just say fuck the lemons and bail, Russell. And I'm joined by my co-host Daniel. I wonder if the carpet matches her pubes, Harper. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm just happy it didn't go. I like to beam my L on her T's. Was where I thought you were going to go. But,
I didn't want to get too tawdry on this. Well,
at least not at the very beginning. Not in the introduction stage.
But, we're finishing off our sex comedy series here, and we're doing a suggestion from Daniel himself. We're doing Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So,
Yes, we're doing Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is probably my favorite of the Judd Apatow-produced films. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of them, and this is my favorite. So,
what's the real name of this movie?
What's the real name of this movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. What is the real name of this movie?
I can't even remember anymore. God damn it. I've totally fucked this up already.
Should we start over? We can start over. I'm okay with that.
For a minute, I blanked, and it's like, what's the name of this fucking movie?
And so today we're going to be talking about Forgetting Sarah Marshall. This is a film from 2008. It
Yes.
is starring Jason Segel and Kristen Bell and Mila Kunis and Russell Brand and Jonah Hill.
Yeah. Directed by Nicholas Stoller and written by Jason Segel as well.
Yes. And if you're Jason Segel, clearly the thing that you need to do is whenever you write a film, you include at least one, if not two sequences in which you show your giant horse cock. That's the goal.
Jesus, guys, this dude showed his dick like in the first half of this film several times.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, no, it's a good dick. I mean, even the doctor says it's a good dick.
Yeah, it's a very nice dick, you know. He also shows it in Knocked Up, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
He's the one who ends up naked outside, and they claim that was like they drew short straws as to who had to be naked for that. But I kind of like to think he was like, oh, it looks like I got the short straw, and I get to show my big dick. That's the I kind of feel like that's what happened with that one.
Honestly, I'd say this is the peak of the Judd Apatow weird sex comedies about fucking losers who have beautiful women fawning over them, and they're just like conflicted about that shit. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of that. Before we get into that, of course, we do have the preamble to this podcast. I do have a format for this podcast. I think I do.
I think this might be the drunkest Lee has been doing this podcast.
I have drank a lot of beer previous.
At least at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I'll get better, I'm sure.
Fine.
First off, just one comment to get through. Jeff Williams, again, a liar. Jeff Williams, you're a liar. You had no movies to recommend. You recommended a movie this week. He says, The Ship of Monsters from 1960. Two sexy female Venusian astronauts are tasked with kidnapping males from around the galaxy to replenish their now extinct population on Venus. Before they can complete the mission, and with a cargo bay full of dangerous monsters, the smoking hot space gals and their robot are forced to land on Earth to effect repairs. There they meet up with a lonely but braggadocious Calabrero who becomes smitten. Mexican sci-fi that is incredibly cheap, cheesy, and wacky, and all the more charming and enjoyable for it. And that sounds kind of cool.
Why have we not watched this already? Is the question.
I think this is going to be on Jeff Williams' month.
Yeah.
I think.
You had me at like Mexican like sexy movie from 1960. Honestly,
Yeah.
like that's all you had to tell me. It's like, yes, I'm down for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pumped for this right now. I'm like, why am I not watching it right now?
I know you have nothing you watched lately, Daniel.
I don't watch anything. Yeah, I just
that's kind of a thing. I'll just mention I watched the second season of Mindhunter on Netflix. I thought it was great. It front loads the first half of the season with look how many awesome serial killers we can show you on this series and interview. There's, I think, the best ever performance of Charles Manson I've ever seen on screen in this series. From what I understand, the guy is the same guy who does Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The guy obviously watched the Charles Manson interviews that showed up in the 80s for, like, you know, all the different, like, news shows and shit. He's scary how good he is. And then there's another guy who does Son of Sam, Berkowitz. And he's fucking eerily just fucking great. Scary how good they got these guys. And, like, they front load the season with our main characters interviewing these serial killers, and then they get into the Atlanta child murders, and they get into that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And I mean that
I kind of like hate like the because it's kind of about like profiling, right? Am I understanding that? It's sort of,
in a way it's proto profiling.
Sure.
It's a way to say it.
I mean, like criminal profiling, like I'm not saying it's not a thing, but it's not so much of a thing as TV wants us to believe, you know? And I kind of have an issue with like kind of like pursuing that. I did listen to the like 15-part podcast about the Atlanta child murders, which left me somewhat unfulfilled in the sense of it really never comes to a conclusion. And then they did like a bonus episode where they like brought out like a profiler who's like, well, he totally did it. And I'm like, I'm not, shrug. I don't know quite how I feel about that. You know,
the series reflects that.
Yeah.
I mean, they have this guy who looks really good for killing 20 kids in his,
Wayne
his
Williams.
neighborhood. Yeah,
Wayne
Williams.
Yeah.
But they totally reflect the reality of the situation where he was knocked for killing an adult. He was never charged for the child murders. And there was a lot of people within his community who thought he never did it. So
well, and there's a lot of like not just the 20 murder, the Atlanta child murders, but there are like many other murders. Like they claim like, oh, the murder stopped after he was put in prison, but like ultimately, like, well, not really. Like when you look at like depending on how broadly you define your characteristics, and there was like some suspicion of Klan involvement and all that sort of thing, and it just sounds like there were a bunch of little children who were being murdered, and maybe this guy had connection to a handful of them, maybe, but even that seems like kind of iffy based on like like fabric analysis. Sorry, I'm just going by what I know of the case. Sorry, I'm not trying to like get us off into a completely. No, we're gonna do a true crime podcast.
You're right, though. Yeah. No. It's very respectful of the crime and the information. And the best thing about the series is it just lets characters talk. It doesn't push. The series doesn't push an agenda. Like, it doesn't make you feel either way about certain characters and serial killers and stuff like that. But as far as a recreation of these serial killers and how they actually are, this series fucking nails it. They've casted people who not only look like the real life serial killers, like the guy who looks like Charles Manson, the guy who looks like David Berkowitz, they're fucking spot on. And when you look at them, their scenes when they act, you compare that to their interviews, it's fucking creepy as shit. Like it's almost like they went back in time and brought them forward and filmed them. Like it's that good.
I may actually check this out then. I've been kind of resisting like some of the true crime stuff on Netflix because I've just been kind of on the like, it seems really exploitative and stuff, but now I'm actually interested,
I don't feel as exploitative at all, although I will say, our mutual friend Jack Graham put some very funny fucking like memes about basically, here's what Mindhunter really is. And although he admitted he hadn't watched it all, but he just made some funny jokes about it. And
nice.
And I got a kick out of that shit. But it's very much worthwhile watching. It's a really good series, and I think everyone watching will feel the same frustration that the FBI agents have, sort of tackling the Atlanta child murders case, because it treats it very real. It treats it just like ground level. Here's all the politics and the different social issues that went into it. There's no clean conclusion to it. It's just frustrating.
I listened to the Atlanta Monster series, and I know I mentioned the like season 2 of that was the Zodiac Killer case. They covered the Zodiac Killer case, and then I went back and listened to the Atlanta Monster series, and that was again very well executed. It's a very good like telling of that story, and it leaves you frustrated partly because like the story feels frustrating, you know. I feel like as someone with a deep respect for investigative journalism, to someone who like I just wish they had like I feel like they lacked a certain, and here's like kind of our take on it, or here's like a sort of an answer that we bring, even if like something that I could disagree with. I just feel like it kind of, it's just like, and that's kind of what happened, and then I don't know, like it's kind of a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have another Netflix series I watched in the last 2 weeks. If you want to, I completely forgot about it.
No,
I watched The Family. This is the Netflix It starts off as a little bit of a docudrama, kind of a story of the family. This is a political group in Washington, D.C. It's this deeply religious, basically kind of I don't want to say a cult, but it's sort of this, it's a group of young men who are groomed to kind of be part of, kind of the high echelons of, kind of Washington, D.C. society.
Kind of like Skull and Bones in college?
It's less of that, and it's more kind of like, like if you kind of get groomed to be in this, and then you're like, the whole goal is that you're going to influence like huge events. Like they only minister to kings and queens and presidents and senators, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's this kind of secret behind the scenes organization that is kind of ultimately, it starts off fairly innocently. Like you kind of learn this guy, Jeff Charlotte, who wrote a couple of books on this. And I really want to read these books now that I've seen the series. But it's this guy's story of like kind of being brought into this and like his experience of it. And, as you go on, you gradually, like, the concentric circles get bigger, and you learn kind of the bigger story of this. And ultimately, it's like, why are there anti-gay laws in Uganda? Well, it's because members of the family have like gone out, like part of the like moral majority bullshit, have gone out and like basically made that happen. And so there's this kind of like deep far right reactionary kind of like movement, and that's all happening because like there's essentially this like very behind the scenes cult leader named Jeff Coe, who has kept his name successfully out of Google results by essentially like getting people to like take his shit down and keep his name like very much out of it. But like the National Prayer Breakfast like started in 1952, and it's like this same organization, and like every U.S. president has been there, and it's like it's a really, really interesting thing, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody with any kind of interest in kind of U.S. politics. It definitely worked for me. I was really not expecting it to like it as much as I did based on the first episode, which was much more like, it felt a little bit basic, and it felt a little bit kind of like docudrama-ish, but it becomes much more documentary once you kind of get past the first like episode and a half. So like the one thing I'd say is like kind of stick with it if you're like me and you're kind of like I kind of just want the more traditional documentary style. I kind of get why. Okay, we're gonna front load like the young people who are good actors, like sitting and like doing a little bit of a documentary style, kind of like we're gonna recreate some of these scenes. But no, it was very good. Netflix is gonna die once Disney Plus happens, so let's enjoy it while it lasts. Ultimately.
Are you so sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Once Disney Plus has like every Marvel property and every Star Wars property, Netflix is done for. Netflix, you had a good run. Roughly 20 years, you're gonna get crushed by Disney, as are we all. Eventually, this podcast is gonna be a Disney product.
Well, I want the Disney money, so.
Yeah, they're gonna pay us $30 a year, and it's gonna be like, well, fuck that. Like, we're done.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to play some music from the film we're reviewing tonight, and we're going to have some podcast promos, and we'll be right back.
Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
How peaceful it looks.
Most effective, Your Majesty. Will you destroy this Earth?
Destroy it utterly.
Send Rick and Danny in Wool Rocket Ajax.
So, just destroy it?
That's what Ming said. Don't you ever listen?
Well, there's no arguing with Ming.
Hail Ming. Wait! You see those transmissions on the visual screen?
Crow? Nightmare on Elm Street?
Judd 2? Black Belt Jones?
Nightbreed?
What's a critter?
Oh, I've seen those things. Flash?
I guess we could wait a while before the destruction.
Yeah, and watch some movies.
And talk about them.
The Hail Ming Power Hour. Disobedience to Ming. For now.
You can find us at Legion Podcast,
You can find us on Facebook.
iTunes,
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram.
at www. You know what? Just Google it for yourself.
Just Google it, you bastages.
Hail Ming.
Breaking 2? Electric Boogaloo?
Samurai Cop.
Army of Darkness?
Flashdance?
We might destroy the planet if it's Flashpoint.
Out of my way, dildo!
Can't shoot the breeze. You can't shoot your shit. You can't shoot it up. You can shoot from the hip. You can't break the rules. You can't break your balls. You can't break your neck. You can't break your back. But you can't break a heart and have it. 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 You can't shoot the breeze, but you can shoot your shit. You can't shoot it up. You can shoot to Berlin. You can break the rules. You can't break your neck. You can't break your balls. You can break your back, but you can't break your heart and have it. 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 You can shoot the breeze, or you can shoot your shit. You can't shoot it up, or you can shoot from the hip. You can lose your mind, or you can lose your quid. You can lose your Louisiana. You can shoot the Berlin. You can break the rules, or you can break your balls. You can break your back, break your back. You can break your neck. But you can't break your heart and have it. Break your heart and have it. You can't 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 break your heart and have
All right, forgetting Sarah Marshall from 2008.
Hey, you got here fast. I got a surprise for you.
Peter, as you know, I love you.
Are you breaking up with me?
Pete, are you, We're leading different lives. It's like you're standing on the dock and I'm in the lake.
Sarah, I swear to God, I'll jump in the lake like a merman.
Do you want to put some clothes on?
Would you like to pick out the outfit that you break up with me in?
Sexy crime fighter Sarah Marshall's been spotted cozying up to singer and notorious Lothario Aldous Snow.
She's dating somebody. And until I do the same thing, I'm gonna feel like I want to die.
Hi.
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 Hi. Do you mind not saying that?
Do you want to gag me?
Kind of now. I had sex with this woman who I barely even know. I'm really scared that I have an STD, Doc.
Peter, I'm a pediatrician. Have you noticed you're sitting on a fire truck? Everywhere I look, I'm reminded of her.
Why don't you go on a vacation?
I could go to Hawaii.
Welcome to Turtle Bay and enjoy your stay. Peter, what are you doing here?
This is a disaster.
Go someplace else.
I'm not leaving here. It'll look like I'm running away.
I'd like to grab some dinner, please.
Is your girlfriend joining you?
No.
You just by yourself?
Yeah.
I just would be so depressed.
Wait.
Did you see her boyfriend? He is ridiculous.
I like her hair. I wonder if the carpet matches her pubes.
Get out of your head. It's really nice out here.
Are you gonna jump or what? Come on, Peter. I can see your vagina from here.
I'll jump.
Universal Pictures presents.
My homie over here on this honeymoon. Are you giving to a hard and rough?
The wife wants me to do certain things.
No.
God would not put a playground next to a sewage system.
A comedy about getting left behind and coming out ahead.
I think it's good you're getting out there.
I think you need to move just a tiny bit further away from the microphone. No closer.
Oh.
Now a little further.
Okay.
Closer.
And then...
Oh, I know what you're doing. You stop that.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
That's a great necklace, Liz. Did you have that a second ago?
Oh, that's gross.
Directed by Nicholas Stoller. Written by Jason Segel. Jason Segel as Peter Breder. Kristen Bell as Sarah Marshall. Mila Kunis as Rachel Jensen. Russell Brand as Aldous Snow. Bill Hader as Brian Brenner. Jonah Hill as Matthew Vanderwick. Liz Kakowski as Liz Betterer. Jack McBrayer as Darnell Braden. Maria Thrayer as Wyoma Brady. And Paul Rudd as Chuck/Kunu. And I'll throw over to you for a quick synopsis there, Daniel.
Sure, I have nothing planned. I didn't know I was going to have to do this, but I've seen this film many times, and this is the story of Peter, who is dating Kristen Bell, who is a gorgeous actress both on and off screen, within and without the movie. In the movie, she stars in a kind of CSI-like, very shitty NBC show, which Peter does the music for. And then they break up because she thinks she can do better than him. And he goes through a period of deep depressive sadness after showing his penis on screen and showing his ass in a recording session. And decides to travel to Hawaii to go on vacation, which he finds out, like, oh, my ex-girlfriend and her rock star boyfriend, Russell Brand, are already there hanging out. It's a very convenient contrivance to find them all in Hawaii at the same time, but ultimately it works. It turns out Mila Kunis is the absolutely fucking amazing hotel clerk girl who takes a shine on to our friend Peter, and ultimately it's kind of a series of very awkward encounters and sometimes sexy encounters among the four people. Also, Jonah Hill as as another employee of the hotel who is kissing Russell Brand's ass for the entire film. And yeah, that's kind of a thing. And then there's a Dracula musical that gets both performed and then later witnessed. And you get a happy ending. So it's great.
Yeah, no, that's way better than what I would have pulled from IMDb if I had the wherewithal this week. Apparently.
Yeah.
So,
it's fine. It's fine. It's funny. The difference is when you asked me to do a film I picked this one, so it's fine. But it's very different when you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a film from like 11 years ago versus like 1935. The level of give a shit that the internet gives us. So. Yeah. This is a film that people might have heard of. So.
Yeah. But so, Daniel, what's your sort of general thoughts on this one?
I really like this one. I picked it. This is my favorite of the Judd Apatow kind of produced films, particularly around this time. I haven't seen all of those Judd Apatow films, but I've seen a bunch of them. My now wife saw this in 2008. It came out in April 2008. We saw this theatrically in like the super ritzy theater in my like old hometown, where like they decided like, oh, the way we're gonna get people to come see movies is we're gonna give you like big padded heated seats and it's like $18 cocktails, and that's how we're gonna get you to come see movies. And I think we saw it like at a 4 p.m. showing. It was a very like snuggly, the two of us alone in the theater kind of thing. And also, I've been through like a bad breakup like that, and I think it's one of the best films I've ever seen about a breakup. I mean, I would, in a lot of ways, I would put this weirdly next to The Apartment in a lot of ways in terms of like kind of a romantic comedy with sort of a deep kind of personal trauma at its center. I mean, it would be very easy to kind of see this as like, oh, this is kind of stupid man pain bullshit. And like, I kind of get that, but it's also like really well performed and it's really well executed. And I think it comes across as like, I mean, the whole point is that Peter is like, he's going through some shit and he's going through like kind of a personal like trauma. And he feels like he's not really kind of good enough to be with his like kind of celebrity girlfriend. And ultimately, it's also kind of about being kind of a working class person working in Hollywood, which I think is also kind of an interesting angle that the film takes. That's something that you see a little bit here in these kind of Judd Apatow productions. The idea kind of like just the idea of like, I work in LA. I have like kind of a shitty job within this industry, but also, like ultimately he's deeply successful. Like to do the music for this like shitty TV show, probably the pinnacle of his career, and it sucks. And that's kind of an amazing like thing for like a film like this to sort of recognize. This was a comfort movie for me for a long time. This was one I saw theatrically. I own the DVD. I actually watched the sort of unrated version. I like rented it on Amazon just to sort of like see the kind of the unrated version, which there's some stuff that I think is not it's hard for me to remember exactly what was and wasn't in the kind of original cut on that,
It's mostly the Kristen Wiig yoga shit.
Yeah, it's mostly that stuff, and then like I think a couple of lines kind of here and there. It's not a dramatic difference, but we also kind of like my wife and I owned the digital download version of this, and so like it was just on her laptop forever. And so we ended up just kind of watching it because it was like the only movie we had available before. There was streaming video all the time. And so this is one that I've seen, I mean, many, many times, just kind of like, 15, 20 minutes at a time. I don't know. I have a deep appreciation for it. And rewatching it, it definitely held up for me. I was really happy rewatching it. And Mila Kunis is amazing and Kristen Bell is amazing. And that's my, that's kind of my review.
This is one of my favorite modern comedies. I think it is the best of the sort of Judd Apatow, whether it's like directed, produced, adjacent, whatever.
Yeah, he didn't direct this; he produced it, and it was sort of. It was in that like frame of like when he was like super big and he could just kind of make these things happen, So
I think this film has the most heart out of all of his films that he's been involved with. I mean, it takes the typical heartbroken schlub, wants his old love back when a much better girl is right there in front of him kind of idea. Like, that's kind of a trope, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it does it really well.
It would be easy to see the like bad teen comedy. Not we do a lot of these like bad teen comedies.
Yeah.
It would be easy to see the bad teen comedy version of this, which you and I would appreciate, but this goes like significantly deeper and it feels like a more human story than just the sort of like, oh, and then there's the hot girl at the desk who like they fall in love sort of thing, No,
that's the thing I like about this best is like I think unlike a lot of the sort of like either Judd Apatow directed or Judd Apatow produced films, this one actually sort of really gets at that idea, break up, loss, and it treats it really fairly. Like it doesn't canonize either character. Like it's like Sarah Marshall and Peter, both of them are treated fairly in this, like equally. Like their flaws and their merits are put on screen, and it allows the viewer to, you know, judge both of those characters. And
well, you see how they're both kind of decent people, but also why they weren't a good fit for each other, you know?
Yeah, no.
And, you know, like kind of at the end, he gets to kind of go off and be with someone else, but, you know, maybe it was kind of a lost opportunity for both of them. Maybe that, I mean, you know, like there is a depth to the characterization that you can kind of see, like there is a humanity to this, you know.
I watched it today for the podcast, and I just wrote this little thing here that I fucking don't know if it actually legitimately applies or not, but I'll just throw it out there. But Peter and Sarah drifted apart in ways that Peter's character flaws didn't allow for him to see, but we do see how good they are for each other in other respects, that they can be true of relationships that we all sort of know. Like, I think everyone sort of had a relationship like this where it feels like it's gonna go on forever, but it stops. And there's, you know, there's good parts of that relationship that you sort of take on after that in your life. Like, you know,
yeah,
they're better people for it. And when the pain fades away or dulls enough for them to realize it. So I think it's about like people, maybe they weren't meant for each other, but even the time they spent together was enough to like build them.
Yeah, they were both improved by the relationship, and I think, you know, like you kind of get, he's like kind of the overgrown man child. He's like kind of like eating cereal out of a giant bowl,
he's
and
a fucking
you know,
man child.
But he's also like a creative person, and he's got kind of his own thing, and you know, like she's kind of like teaching him, you know. You also get like he goes through like a series of depressions, and like, you know, like he does the, you know, there was that week where I wore sweatpants for 7 days, which is sort of like in the film gets treated as a bit of a, you know, it's a joke, you know, it's kind of like, you know, he does the like, you know, Gandalf, thou shalt not pass, which was a slightly more relevant reference in 2008 than it is today, you know. But at the same time, it's you know, it's a portrait of someone who has like kind of a deep-seated kind of emotional issue. I mean, one of the great scenes, he's like sitting at the piano and he's like kind of goofing around and trying to write. And, you know, he kind of goes, you know, Peter, you suck. You're so self-loathing, you know. And it's such a, like, you know, I don't know, you know, any person who's ever tried to write, any person who's ever tried to produce anything creative, any person who's, you know, we put out this podcast, and I mean, I won't speak for Lee, you know, but, you know, I've tried to do some writing. I've tried to do some creative work, and, like, it's a very, that feels really like on the nose. It feels really, really personal. It feels very, you know, kind of authentic to that experience of being a person trying to do creative work who has like a deep-seated self-loathing.
Yeah.
You know? Like, who knows he's kind of lucky to be able to do this, but also, you know, kind of hates the whole process of it. And, you know, like, I don't know, like there are so many moments in this film that have that kind of resonance, you know, it would just not what you get from, you know, typically like, oh, it's like a little silly, you know, $30 million comedy. Like, no, there's some real stuff in this, you know.
Jason Segel as Peter, I feel like he works so much better than the protagonists of a lot of these Judd Apatow-produced films or directed films, where he's likable. Like, you can understand where he's coming from. A lot of these protagonists in a lot of these films are just fucking assholes. They're just man-children that are, like, irredeemable. But I feel like Jason Segel as Peter here, you can kind of understand where he's coming from. Even though it's like kind of lays it on thick that it's like, you need to get over this.
But within the context of the film, it's all within a few weeks. So it's not, you know, like, look, if I was dating Kristen Bell for 5 years,
Yeah,
it might take me more than 3 weeks to kind of get over that. Like,
that's true. That's true.
Not to. But then again, if I met Mila Kunis, I might be like, well, I've.
If I met Mila Kunis, it's like Kristen Bell. Who the fuck is that? This movie does a way better job of making us sort of relate to protagonists and like want him to succeed than any of these other films in this sort of wheelhouse, I guess.
Right, sure.
Do. Yeah, and I like it a lot. Like, I like the performances. I fucking love Mila Kunis's performance in this. She's just so real. I guess is the way to say it.
Well,
like,
she has. It's a little bit of a thankless performance because ultimately she has to be the girlfriend, like the love interest, but also she has to do a lot, but also kind of recede into the background, right? Because she's not the lead. She's not one of the kind of like, lead people. I mean, she's not Sarah. She's not,
but I mean, watching this, she feels like one of the leads to me, though.
No, she does feel like one of the leads, but that's ultimately like that's a mark on her talent and on the writing. To be fair, not to, but ultimately, like it's not really her movie. We're following Jason Segel around, and we're kind of like the whole thing is about him forgetting his ex-girlfriend as opposed to, kind of like, finding this kind of new love. And she has to kind of be, Mila Kunis has to be sort of like available and sexy and amazing and adorable and sort of has to work through that kind of emotional thing. But like, we're not ever really focused on her as a person except for in a couple of scenes, which I want to like talk about here in a second. And so like, I really admire actors and I admire writing that can kind of like give us an image of this kind of multifaceted character within this kind of ultimately what's a supporting role, where it would be very easy for her to be just sort of the kind of the prize that Jason Segel gets at the end for like kind of realizing his emotional relationship with Kristen Bell is not what he wanted it to be, and she's just and Mila Kunis is just sort of the like, oh, she's the consolation prize you get for like realizing that. Yeah. And instead you actually get like kind of a real back and forth relationship. And I think that's partly due to the writing and partly due to Mila Kunis's acting. And one of the things, I mean, I was thinking about rewatching this. I was thinking about how we had talked about in a previous episode the sort of the tourism industry in Southern California. I talked about like the homelessness problem in Hawaii and that sort of thing. She's very much like kind of on that realm. She's someone who like traveled to Hawaii. I mean, in character, not Mila Kunis as a person, but in character, she's someone who traveled to Hawaii. Who, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be like, how do you not want to live in Hawaii? And then ultimately, like, well, I'm going to work at the front desk of a fucking hotel. And like ultimately she's doing better than like the vast majority of people in Hawaii. And like we get a sense of kind of the service industry in Hawaii, and ultimately it's sort of the sanitized kind of version of this. And but Jason Segel, one of the things that makes us like Peter as a character is the way that he gets along with kind of all the like people behind the scenes in this. And you kind of get the sense of, oh yeah, the bartenders, and like there's the one guy who's kind of like he's got a little bit of a rivalry with or whatever, but like ultimately there's a sense of he likes the help and the help likes him, and you get that kind of that back and forth, and you kind of get the sense of like, yeah, we're all kind of working class like schlubs together. And that's something that again you never see in this kind of movie, of like an actual like sense of yeah, I'm on my own on vacation. I mean I could totally see like, I got out of a bad breakup, I've got a couple of grand in the bank, I'm gonna fly to Hawaii and spend like a week and just drink my way through solving this in my emotional life and just kind of like hanging out with bartenders for a week, and there's a like again there's a reality there, there's a somebody like thought their way through this, and I love some of my favorite characters are the background characters, the quote unquote the help in this film.
You're right. Jason Segel's character he basically just is given a pass. Mila Kunis' character is just, I'm gonna sort of initiate you into this world, because he shows up as, I haven't reserved anything. Can you just give me a room? And it's like, well, we don't have any real rooms. We have the $6,000 a night room. and he's like, well, oh fuck, I can't afford that shit. And it's like, well, no one ever fucking books it. So
this is like when Oprah, or who is it, Dakota Fanning or somebody?
Dakota Fanning eventually takes it, yeah, but it's
who
like,
at the time was like 12 years old, which is another like kind of a gag, like
it's fucking funny as shit, and it really is.
But which also speaks to like the kind of level of like just that kind of like the working class, upper class kind of divide, where there are two classes of people. There's the like people who are like literally killing pigs to feed people on this island, and then there's Dakota Fanning coming in and spending like $6,000 a night on a hotel room, and there's nothing in between. It's like, economy.
Yeah, but Mila Kunis is looking out for the lower class. She's looking out for the disenfranchised, and she's
because
like,
she's one of them,
Yeah, and so she's like, I'll put you in this room, and this is like unofficial shit. And I mean, if we have to kick you out, we're gonna kick you out. But otherwise,
like, you gotta clean up. But like she kind of does the under the table thing when she kind of she's definitely like, yeah, I could get fired for this, but whatever.
Well, I mean, she's super sympathetic to him, because I mean he's a broken fucking dude.
When she sees his movie star or TV star kind of ex-girlfriend with like her movie star boyfriend, it's like, oh, that's fucked up. I'll give you and even then you kind of get the sense of like it's not like a sort of pity fuck she's throwing him at the end. You kind of get like, yeah, no, I've got a feeling of like, oh yeah, you're a decent guy and I kind of like you, and like it's weird, like for a movie that's 2 hours long, there's a little bit of a slow burn in terms of the romance. Like you kind of get a sense of like there's a progression there.
The movie's very interested in like giving you like vignettes of different characters. You get like the fucking Paul Rudd character, who is just like the super servant. My Hawaiian name is like Kinyu, and it's like, I'll give you your Hawaiian name. It's like, where did you get your Hawaiian name from? Well, I looked up on Google. Like, they have a translator, it's like, and it's like his name's
there's like a Hawaiian name like website in 2008. Like, I put in my name Craig, and it told me, oh, your Hawaiian name is Kunu.
Yeah.
I'm a total white colonizer of this, but I'm kind of a decent human being, but I'm also deeply stupid, and so
he forgets.
I mean, they can't say. I guess like, oh, I smoke a lot of weed, like all the time. Like that's the only thing that just doesn't kind of get like quite included as a one is kind of a straightforward character trait, but like you kind of get that.
It's so implied though. Like he asked Jason Segel's characters like, "You got any weed?" Like that's the cure to your ails. You got any weed? No. Oh, all right.
You want to go surf then?
Yeah, let's go surf then. And then he forgets who Jason Segel is when they meet again. Like he's that fucking out of it. But yeah, I do love how it's like.
But if you lived on the beach in Hawaii, I mean, if I had lived on the beach in Hawaii, like I don't care, whatever. Like
Yeah, this film is pretty much like a masterclass in awkwardness. Like.
Oh yeah, it's the king of cringe comedy ultimately.
I was watching this film, was like, oh god. Oh god, that's uncomfortable. Like I was feeling like physically uncomfortable watching some of these situations where like Peter was inserting himself in situations where it's like, dude, you need to walk the fuck away. Like you need to.
Well, the film knows that it's putting us into uncomfortable situations, and it like makes an uncomfortable situation out of the way that it puts us in those situations. Like at one point, Mila Kunis and Jason Segel are like kind of going down for dinner at the outdoor like restaurant bar or whatever.
Yeah.
And they run into they have a reservation. They run into like our movie star rock star couple, who, oh yeah, it's gonna be 5 minutes for you. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. It's so terrible. It's gonna be 5 minutes for you. Oh, also the people who have a reservation get to kind of like walk right in. And then, like, there's oh, no, I'm sorry, like, have a good dinner, et cetera, et cetera. And then, like, almost as an aside, like, well, you can come join us if you want.
Yeah.
And then, like, at this point, there's a sort of character moment where Kristen Bell's character, Sarah Marshall, is kind of on the, I might want to get back with my ex-boyfriend, and so I'm gonna kind of take any excuse to spend more time with him. And she's like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And then they're all kind of like, is this happening? I guess it's happening. I guess this is what we're doing. Okay, we'll get a couple extra menus, and then suddenly they all sit down, and it's one of the great scenes in the film, But it's also it's such a great sort of comedy of errors. It's a great little it's all in the dialogue and it's all in the moment, and I think that's the thing that I love about the film is that it's not even about the situation is set up, but ultimately it's about sort of at that point you understand these four characters enough to understand how they're going to kind of bounce off of each other and how they're all going to make it awkward for each other, but not in a way that any particular person seems like an asshole, or at least more of an asshole than they already are.
The movie takes enough time to make all the characters human. They're not caricatures of anything. Like even fucking Aldous Snow. At the fucking end of the day, you understand who he is, and you understand him as a human being. And that fucking scene at the dinner table where they're all together, that's fucking hilarious shit. That's one of my favorite scenes as far as a comedic movie goes. They play off each other, and you don't expect them to go the way they go, where they start basically fighting amongst each other in a way that you don't think they would, and it's fucking beautiful. It's just so well done.
Oh, and also there's a Hollywood element where it's oh, that movie sounds great. When's it coming out? Oh, it came out. It's already out. Oh, well, we don't always get these things on the islands. You understand?
Yeah.
It's no. The film came out nobody cared.
We wouldn't get in Hawaii. We would get that killer cell phone movie.
Yeah, killer cell phone movie.
and I fucking love how fucking Peter and Russell Brand they
eye each other. They're kind of
They deconstruct the fucking movie it's bullshit. They could have took the batteries out of the cell phone. Movie done.
You take the batteries out of the cell phone. The thing is over. Yeah, no,
and then Kristen Bell was like, no, it's a psychological thing. It's you have to get into the mindset of the character. It's no, this movie is crap. This movie was bad.
This movie was bad. We've watched a lot of bad movies for this podcast, and we understand the way that works, and there is a logic to bad movies, but at the same time, it's worth kind of going you take the battery out, it's over,
Yeah, no, this movie sounds like something that was released direct to video kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like especially in context, and this is one of those look, I don't live in Los Angeles. I'm not someone who works quote unquote in the industry or whatever, but I'm someone who, follows it enough to kind of understand, and I know people who live in Los Angeles, and I've kind of read enough, and it does kind of feel very authentic to that experience of she's a TV actress, she's got kind of a starring role in this TV show, and she took a movie role in this kind of shitty horror movie that's about a cell phone that eats people or whatever, and kind of went off and did it. And so many actors, they basically pick these kinds of roles because oh, I got to go to Singapore for a week or whatever, and we wouldn't want to do that, and they kind of literally phone it in. I mean, not that, and it does feel really authentic to that. It also is it's kind of about her because it halfway through the film, we learn that her show has been canceled, and her response of being I'm 26, I'm in my late 20s, and I'm an actress, and that's a thing that like Kristen Bell, I like as a person at that point, who like nowadays we kind of know that like she has kind of gone on to be on The Good Place, and she's kind of an amazing human being in general.
Well, I
but
mean,
she was kind of coming out of Veronica Mars at that point, and kind of
yeah.
had a very, you can kind of see that as a kind of her talking about like kind of her own experience of like, am I done? Is this the end of it? Who knows?
Well, yeah, no, Russell Brand, like, he talks to her, and it's like, you're not 30 yet. Like, you still got a couple years before your career is over. Like, that's basically what he's saying.
Which is very, which is very accurate too.
It's very accurate,
look,
yeah.
if you're a young woman who gets on like an NBC, like a shitty NBC show, it's like, well, save your fucking money. And you don't have much longer to go, but you're gonna make a shitty movie. You're gonna make a shitty TV show, and then that's gonna be it for you. And obviously, Kristen Bell is like an incredibly talented like actress, but like you could definitely, that isn't like by itself a guard against that. Honestly,
what a fucking accurate fucking parody here. Like,
yeah,
crime scene of the crime.
Yes.
It's so fucking good. Like
it's definitely half CSI, half Law and Order, and this was very like 2008 on NBC as well. Like it feels very.
It's not even CSI Law and Order. It's the
it's the shitty knockoffs. It's like Medium and like all the all the.
Not even that. The one that was on CBS, which is like the fucking the one where they were like traveling around the world in jet planes, like finding serial killers.
Criminal Minds.
Yes, that's what it was. It was Criminal Minds. It's that bad. I love it. Fucking, they show scenes from it where they're just like throwing off bad lines. It's like
where he's going, he's gonna need to know how to masturbate.
And then he's parroting the fucking CSI shit where he takes his sunglasses off to say the lines or whatever, or puts them on. Whatever the fuck it was. The David Caruso parody.
Yeah.
It's so good. So fucking good. This movie is very much about like side characters. I fucking love fucking Bill Hader in this as the brother-in-law and his wife. And these are two characters who married like right off, like they never had girlfriends or boyfriends beforehand, basically. So they're like true loves, and they married, and they're so clueless to like reality in the bigger sense of the word. But at the same time, they give like relationship advice to Peter. And
there's a moment like at the very beginning where when Peter is kind of in his like depression, and he's talking about, Sarah, she got me like plastic containers for my cereal to keep my cereal fresh, and like she was the best girl ever. And then Bill Hader, kind of goes like, do you want to have this conversation? And like there's a moment where like Jason Segel is like, and then he goes, yes, and then it's like, you're talking about my wife, you're talking about my girlfriend, this is not like a conversation that you want to have. This is not like you're being insulting to me and everyone around me.
He legit says that his girlfriend is better than Bill Hader's wife. Like that.
Right. And which is kind of just one of those like, you are insulting me and the people around me, and I love the moment where he says like, do you want to have this conversation? Is this really a thing that you want to do? Because like that's also like a moment, look, I understand you're in pain, and I'm gonna give you like a wide berth on this, but if you want to have this conversation, we're gonna have this conversation, and sometimes you need that kind of tough love,
No. But I love how goofy they are, because like there's another sequence where he talks to him on the computer where Bill Hader starts putting green screen backgrounds on his computer. Oh, we're in Hawaii too, and they get to like the whole fucking Hawaiian dance.
It's a luau. No, you're talking about a hula. No, it's a luau. It's a luau. Look, and like these are wealthy white people doing wealthy white people things. And and the film understands that it's full of shit. But it's great.
I love Bill Hader's wife. Like, she's so earnest and just like she wants to help, and she's so incapable of helping at all. But it's great. It's so fucking good.
I thought you would like Jack McBrayer's wife in this. Ultimately, you know, the ultra conservative redhead who just wants to get.
Oh
laid
no!
all the time.
No! I'm fucking fully. I was going to talk about this. I
We
was
should do
fully on
this.
board for her because there's this conservative Christian couple at this resort, and she's not so convicted. Like, she doesn't have the convictions that he has. She wants to fuck.
She does not, like, once you're married, like, dude, you got to go down on me is essentially what's happening. And you've got to, like, actually, like, be comfortable with yourself. And I kind of, like, rewatching it now, I was kind of like, he kind of feels like an asexual person, like someone who's like just which is fine. Like, I don't have any but he feels like someone who's just kind of disinterested in the whole process. But ultimately, he loves his wife, and he gets advice from the rock star, which is totally a thing that happens.
And then they have a sex scene where she says, "Sex," which is fucking amazing, and she's fucking super hot and dump the religion and just fuck.
Sex is better than religion. Ultimately, that's
really
that's the statement that I think we can all enjoy on this podcast. Yeah. I'm with you.
But I mean, like, the build up to that is like, what are they doing? Because we see a couple sex scenes between them before that conversation takes place, where I guess he's basically just poking her belly with his penis or something.
Yeah, he just doesn't know what's going on, and like ultimately they don't have the and ultimately what you need a pervert to like tell you like
you need all the snow to like give you fucking tasking exercise of sexual positions with large chess pieces on the beach.
So the goal is to achieve full penetration while stimulating the clitoris, and if you can get the anus involved, that's the extra bonus.
Apparently,
which is also advice I would give.
It's whatever you're into.
Yeah. Sure. No, that's actually if everybody's into that, you're good. But ultimately the goal is like full penetration and also like stimulating the clitoris and
I feel like that would be a good transition. Let's talk about All the Snow, because what do you think of Russell Brand overall?
I feel like I kind of go back and forth on Russell Brand depending on kind of where he is in the news, but I feel like he's like mostly a force for good, at least in 2019. I feel like he's like as deeply kind of stupid as a celebrity that he is, as someone who's been a millionaire for a long time. He's also someone who has like kind of called out other major media figures for, kind of not understanding the needs of the working class. And so I'm kind of on the like Russell Brand, like as far as millionaires go, you're kind of in the top tier as far as I'm concerned. And maybe I'm just kind of not remembering some terrible thing that he's done, but I'm kind of on board with you, Russell Brand. Like he's someone who, despite being incredibly wealthy, sort of understands like kind of working class issues. And like, so far as I know, has not like said like trans people need to be put into ovens or anything. So,
Yeah, I haven't heard that one yet from him. Yeah, no, I like him. I think his heart's in the right place when he goes political. As far as acting goes, I think he's great in this. I think his character is much more deeper than the film fucking gives him credit for. And I mean
Well, yeah, but I've got herpes right now, but it's not inflamed.
Exactly.
And so it's not really an issue for us to have to talk about right now, so we're fine.
No, but all the characters in this film are like deeply flawed for the most part.
Yeah.
Like outside of like I think like Mila Kunis, like Most of the characters in this film
Oh,
are...
she has her issues. Don't
She
don't
does.
get me wrong.
No, she does. But I mean, like the main characters, I think are much more fucked up than she is by any degree.
But they're
I
also
think,
like wealthier than she is, and so by definition more.
There is a class distinction there. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think like Russell Brand, his character here, you can get a sense of he's kind of real. As much as he feels like a fake and a phony, he's actually kind of legitimately kind of a real guy.
Well, he's that kind of guy who's like the celebrity who's like embracing the sort of like, I'm a citizen of the world. That's actually a phrase used in the film. I'm a teetotaler. I kind of got off drugs, and I'm kind of that like kind of like hippie persona, and I really like women. I'm going to sleep around a whole lot, and I'm kind of a douche, but kind of in a way that like, well, what did you expect? Like, if he was just more honest about it, he'd have less of an issue. It's just that he's like kind of misleading people in his life and making them think he's kind of monogamous. But then again, you know, like it's revealed in the film, he's been sleeping with Kristen Bell, with Sarah Marshall for like a year while she was still like dating Peter. And then like she gets mad at him for like sleeping with the like the maid or whatever, and it's like no, you don't kind of get to do that because I was cheating on
you know, you knew what you were buying into.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and he just kind of like he's kind of that wealthy asshole who gets to be the kind of that marker for that kind of like several sexual liberation sort of thing. Which kind of becomes I don't know, it's kind of a problematic trope, but also like, I mean, it kind of works in context, and it works in character, and you sort of get like, again, like this film is very gentle. Like he's a really decent human being regardless. Like, you know, he still is kind of a, you know, even though he's a rich asshole, he's still kind of a decent person, and you kind of get moments of him like actually being super cool, and that's kind of awesome.
That's the thing about this film. I don't feel like any of the characters outside of Mila Kunis's ex-boyfriend are pieces of shit. The majority of the characters in this are like, they're good people and they just want to get along.
And I totally believe that like Mila Kunis fucked over the ex-boyfriend in some way, like based on like, you know, like, let's not. I think a lot of us have dated the sort of like kind of gotten into relationships with people who like, oh yeah, I had a bit of a chaotic past, and then kind of run into the ex and oh no, I've heard you're like a super asshole, and it's like, well yeah, but she like keyed my car or whatever, and it's like, oh right, not that way anymore, or maybe still is that, you know. You kind of get the sense of, you know, like Jason Segel dating Mila Kunis in this film is you know, who knows how long that's gonna last ultimately, you know. There is a bit of a kind of, I mean, you know, we get the happy ending, like that's fine, but ultimately
we do,
you know, ultimately you do get the sense of like, she's a spitfire, she has a personality, and she has her own past, and despite the fact that we don't kind of understand like why the guy is mad at her, I don't think that it's difficult to understand with that character, like why he might be mad at her, if that makes sense, you know.
Well, I mean, they do make a point of throwing this really misogynistic culture kind of thing into it, where she showed her tits in like a photo, and that gets pasted into the bathroom.
You know, if you Google like Mila Kunis nude, not that I would ever do such a thing or anything.
No.
That photo shows up in the
which is, by the way, guys, it's fake. It's not a real
fake.
tits.
It's not her real tits. No, it's not. No.
She's in a weird culture of like machismo and shit like that, and she kind of sees Jason Segel's character as like an escape from that, because he's
right. I mean, well, he's the nice guy, and there's a kind of like, you know, awful subculture and sort of the nice guy subculture, which, you know, in 2008 was kind of in its nascent form. I mean, there is a kind of reading of this of like, you know, sort of as that sort of MRA MGTOW bullshit thing, but I don't think we're forced into that. I think we're forced. No. I think we're allowed to kind of see like, yeah, he actually is just sort of a decent human being who wants to kind of be with her and wants to kind of bring her out of that. He doesn't go out of his way to court her, which I think is the interesting thing. It's more like he meets her and there's kind of this connection, but it does take a little bit of time to burn. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like he goes out of his way to kind of make it happen, or that she like falls for him for no reason. It's more like they have a legitimate connection, and they go on a couple of dates, and she likes him, and she fucks him, and that's awesome. That's the way this is supposed to go.
And that's good enough. Like that ends the film where they come together, and who knows what happens after then. It really doesn't matter. The big thing about this film is him getting out of the funk of being a depressed, heartbroken fucking fool. And maybe he grows up a little bit. He grows up at least a bit more.
Well, you definitely get the sense of like once he comes back from Hawaii, he works on the musical and he actually like does something creative with his life. And you see him like kind of on the treadmill, and you see him kind of like he kind of gets his shit together a little bit. And that's kind of the it's not about like kind of being the Adonis. It's not about being it's just about kind of being the better person and kind of like moving on. And ultimately, in that sense, the vacation actually did do what it was meant to do. And also kind of his like running into Sarah there, and having the kind of back and forth and having the 10 to 15 seconds of oral or whatever that he got from her, in that kind of aborted attempt at, kind of a get together. It does strike me as like, I kind of get that moment of like, oh, you run into that ex and you're like, I'm totally down for kind of rekindling this. And then you kind of get in that moment and like, oh, well, I'm, my dick isn't quite like going for this. I'm not quite like emotionally here for this. Like I wanna fuck you, Kristen Bell, but also
my dick's not liking your mouth. That's all there is to it.
And that's not a matter of my dick. That's a matter of like my soul just isn't.
Yeah. I want Mila Kunis to suck my dick, and I mean Well, I can't disagree.
Who doesn't ultimately?
It's like, dude, I'm on board.
The idea that Jason Segel is like both fucked Kristen Bell and Mila Kunis is the great paradox of our age. And then if you've watched How I Met Your Mother, it's like he's been married to Allison Hannigan for 8 seasons or whatever.
Which is like also well done.
Have you watched How I Met Your Mother?
I've seen screen caps. I loved you since fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so it's like there's no change there. It's just like you're hot. I love you. Do your thing. That's
the whole point of those two characters is that they fuck constantly. So
good for both of them.
Yeah, and she kind of wants to have a girl on girl experience with her best friend. So that too. So. Not that I'm telling you should watch How I Met Your Mother, but I think you would appreciate the show. Is what I'm saying.
I like that when Jason Segel like he gets coerced by Mila Kunis into doing his Dracula song in the bar.
Oh God, that is one of my favorite scenes in any movie.
It's fucking great.
They come in, they sit at the bar. You've heard his like narrative about like the Dracula musical, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're doing like Dracula, and I think it's a musical, and maybe there are puppets involved." And like in my head, when I saw it the first time, that sounds like a giant piece of shit, And then like they sit at the bar, and then like she knows the guy, and it's just kind of like she sets it up to where he gets to like kind of go. She forces him to go do a song from the thing because she is kind of fucking with him, but also kind of wants to hear the music and kind of wants to encourage him to kind of like she's the free spirit. Like there's a manic pixie dream girl thing, but it works better than that, right? He gets up there and he sits at the piano. Super awkward, like lurch-like behavior, where he's just kind of like, I can do something else. I mean, I can play a lot of things. I don't have to do this like stupid. And then you just hear from off screen Mila Kunis going, "Dracula musical,"
That's so good.
which is one of the funniest moments. And then like he plays, and like God, I hope that whole like sequence is on this podcast. It's one of my favorite
We
like
might
bits
do
of
it. We
thing.
might
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Dracula's Lament, and once you hear it, it's like, yeah, that's actually really good. It's really really good.
What I really love about that is it doesn't go with the traditional sex comedy or just comedy tropes where he wins the entire fucking bar over. He
Right.
doesn't do it. He doesn't win the entire bar over.
Wins her
He
over.
wins over her. He wins over like three or four people in the bar.
Because she understands that like this is something that matters to him,
Yeah.
and it's like this heartfelt thing as opposed to like a crowd pleaser.
That guy doesn't win everybody over in the bar. He wins maybe half the bar if he's lucky, and the rest of the people are like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
Most of the people in the bar are just kind of sitting there and going like, yeah, whatever. It's getting hard to believe it's going to get better.
It's so hard to believe it's going to get better.
We shouldn't do this. It's
It's
shouldn't
great.
torture the audience. But.
No. Trivia for this. So the film was based on scriptwriter Jason Segel's experience breaking up with Linda
Cardellini.
Cardellini, yeah. As well as 3 other breakups, apparently, with unspecified women. So, okay.
Well, and they worked on Freaks and Geeks together,
Yeah.
Yeah, so, part of that same, like, kind of Judd Apatow, like, crew. So, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, isn't one of his, like, co-stars from Freaks and Geeks one of the women he screws, and the montage of women that are weird?
We didn't even talk about that. It's possible. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up, but, like, possibly, yeah.
I think so. One of them is that, like, the one that says hi all the time, and he says hi back. Like,
you can gag me if you want.
you
like, want to? Kinda now.
Yeah, shit, yes. Yeah. I don't get the problem. I don't know.
In the end, it turns out that like he breaks up with Mila Kunis like after like 3 months of dating, and then goes back to that girl and ends up deeply invested in the BDSM scene in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
that's where we end up. Yeah,
that's a good ending as well. Yeah.
No, any ending that is like, and then he's not fucking Mila Kunis anymore is a bad ending. But
Yeah, no, I would be disappointed because it's like if Mila Kunis wanted to fuck me, like that's a lifetime investment. I'm not stopping. Like that's the end of it. Like women, I don't know women. I know Mila Kunis, and that's the end of it.
Right.
Russell Brand also played Alden Snow in Get Him to the Greek from 2010. Like there's an extended universe here.
Right. Yeah. No. There was an
films.
attempt. And I think Get Him to the Greek just didn't do very well, or like that might have extended.
No.
It would have been funny to see like more Judd Apatow, like Out of Snow, like show up in more Judd Apatow films. But Judd Apatow kind of had this like kind of brief resurgence of like kind of relevance for about 5 years, and then kind of ended.
Yeah. DVD info for this, it was released in a single disc DVD edition and also a 3-disc collector's DVD edition. I don't even know where the fuck it was released from. Universal, I think.
It's a movie from 2008. It's available on DVD.
It's everywhere. It's fucking everywhere. I'm so drunk right now. It's
one of these days there's going to be a Criterion disc, and that's the one you're going to want to pick up. Imagine forgetting Sarah Marshall on Criterion. That's the.
You can find this film. That's kind of the end game here.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't find this film, you're a moron, basically. Yeah. So we're going to be doing Sherlock Holmes films in the next month or so.
For the next 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to pick some titles, and I didn't because A, I'm busy, and B, I'm kind of a douchebag. So, we're going to get on that. But we're going to do some Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes films in the next week. We'll do 1 or 2 of those next week. And I just got to pick the titles. I just need to look up and see which ones I want to do. And yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, so Daniel, tell people where you can find you on the internet.
I'm on Twitter at Daniel E. Harper. I do a podcast about terrible people, Nazis. I don't speak German. Libsyn.com. Very little talking about Mila Kunis's tits on that podcast.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, really, we should try to work that in at some point.
I mean, you should talk about like Eric Stryker and Mila Kunis's tits at some point.
Oh no, like those two things do not go well together, at all. Any conversation about Mila Kunis's adorableness and sexiness, and the fact that I think she would have no time for Eric Stryker ultimately.
Oh no.
Also, the audience for this podcast should absolutely not Google Eric Stryker. He's awful.
And Mila Kunis drinks far better bourbon than he does.
Even though she's she makes me want to drink Jim Beam ultimately, which is kind of an awful thing for any person to do. But the fact that it's Mila Kunis, I'm kind of okay, yeah.
I'm gonna pretend that Jim Beam is way better.
Yeah, just because Mila Kunis, the advertising works because it's Mila Kunis.
Exactly.
Anyway. You can check that out. I don't speak German.libsyn.com if you want to listen to me talk about Nazis. But I assume if you're listening to this, you already know that. So, yeah, that's where to find me.
And you can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com. You can find our Apple Podcast, Facebook, YouTube links there. Join us on Facebook. Give us commentary. Give us criticisms.
Review us on iTunes.
Fucking iTunes. Give us fucking 5 stars. Why not?
The drunkest movie podcast out there, for sure.
But
at least this episode. If you can find a drunker review of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, then we salute you.
But yeah, until then, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll be back when we're back with some fucking Sherlock Holmes fucking films. So until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Tonight we have a special guest from the mainland, singing a song from his Dracula musical. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Peter Bretter.
Woo, Peter! Yeah, get excited! Peter! Woo!
Rachel?
Dracula! Woo, Peter! Ow! Get him!
Stop.
Thank you. I could play something else. I just think out of context this might be.
Dracula musical!
Thank you.
It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better. I've been drowning too long to believe that the tide's going to turn. And I've been living too hard to believe things are going to get easier now. I'm still trying to shake off the pain from the lessons I've learned. And if I see Van Helsing, I swear to the Lord I will slay him. Ha 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 ha, he'd take you from me, but I swear I won't let it be so. Ha 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 ha, blood will run down his face when he is decapitated. Ah, his head on my mantle is how I will let this world know how much I love you. Die, die, die. I can't.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have been listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For other episodes, our links to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and our Facebook group, as well as links to podcasts and websites of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.